Afternoon all and welcome back to From the Terrace, by the fans, for the fans. And joining me as ever, my Mystery Incorporated Velma, Jamie McAnally. My Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Dan Wiltshire. And my Fred, Connor Hack. And of course me, Fred. The damsel in distress, Daphne.
Always.
What a crazy weekend of sport. Yet again, talking points galore. There's controversy, highs, lows, and the average level being a Spurs fan. Pretty shit. Getting straight into it, the big news of the weekend was, of course, the Liverpool-Everton game, Merseyside derby. 2-2 in the end. Great match for the neutrals. But if you're a Liverpool fan like myself and Connor, if your blood isn't boiling, there's something wrong with you. Connor, first incident, 1-0 up, 2 minutes later, Van Dijk, not even one-on-one. Pickford just comes along, karate chopped him in the leg, ACL gone. Thoughts on that?
I know that pain.
Right, chopped ACL gone. Oh, mate, honestly, I don't even want to talk about it. I have to talk about it because I've had a lot of anger built up inside since Saturday afternoon. But there's not much you can say. Like, everyone's seen what happened. I don't think there's one person I've seen, ex-player, pundit, ex-referee, fans from other teams that have turned around and said that they agree with the decision that was made. Whether or not he's offside is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's like saying if the referee blows for offside and the whistle's gone, I can go around and headbutt someone afterwards and nothing's going to be done about it.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It's just...
especially this week.
Sick,
Especially this week, you had Reece James get sent off for England after the final whistle. Yeah. United got a penalty at Brighton after the final whistle.
I'm pretty sure Richarlison was sent off for a tackle he made after the ref had already blown the whistle. I'm pretty sure the ref blew the whistle for a foul on Mane, and then Richarlison flew into Thiago and he got sent off. I don't see how that's any different. And I don't even think that challenge was half as bad as what Pickford did to Van Dijk. All this talk about keepers have to make themselves big and they have to come out and be a presence in that. Nothing he did in that situation made himself big. He's dived in with his feet at knee height and he's scissored his legs around him.
Nothing he does is normal.
No, he's the most erratic goalkeeper you'll ever see in your life.
He's done it before. Do you remember when he did it to Dele Alli? He's done it to Dele Alli. Ali went through one-on-one. He come flying out and instead of going with his arms like most keepers, he's fucking dived in 2-footed and nearly chopped Ali's ankle off. He's a twat. He's an absolute.
Well, that's the thing.
Twat.
You get keepers who are quite nervous. You look like people like Kepa who they get nerves under pressure.
No, Kepa's
under pressure.
Absolutely bricking it.
Under pressure, Pickford's the complete opposite. He gets this arrogance about him. He gets this overconfidence. He then the adrenaline kicks into him, and he just does the maddest shit.
You think
you can't get away from it.
And the fact we keep picking him as England's number one is going to keep him with the mentality that he's the best keeper we've got in England.
Yeah.
Until he gets dropped for these performances and someone else gets given a chance at international level, he's going to continue thinking he's the best English goalkeeper we've got.
Yeah, well, that's English, isn't it?
I hate him. I think he's a knobhead.
You don't want it to be a personal attack on the keeper, just more analysing his poor tackles, but kind of where you're coming from. But
I'm outraged. Like.
Moving on from Pickford himself, onto Van Dijk. Out now is an ACL injury. Probably was going to miss the best part of the season, if not all of it. How big a miss is he going to be to Liverpool?
He will be huge. There's no getting away from that. A Virgil van Dijk in any team in the world that gets an injury like this that's out is going to be a huge, huge miss. At the same time, you've got to look around the squad and think, fair enough, he's been a huge, major part in all our success that we've had recently, but it's not like he's done it all by himself. Every team this year in the league is conceding goals, and there's no doubt Liverpool are going to concede goals between now and the end of the season. We've shipped 7 at Villa. We shipped 3 at home to Leeds. Like, we're conceding even when he was in the team. That's not going to change. But I think we've got enough quality elsewhere to still maintain a strong push along with some of the other top teams. But, mate, it's going to be absolutely horrendous watching the Liverpool side without Van Dijk, because since he's come in, he's been the best defender in world football.
It does seem quite inevitable when a team goes into like the summer transfer window and doesn't, like, they lose a player. Like, remember when Company left City and the City didn't really address it, and then what happened? Laporte got injured, missed pretty much the whole season, and then this year Klopp's been in the same situation. Said we're not going to go out and buy a centre back. We've got enough. We've got cover, and then bang, straight away you lose Van Dijk for potentially up for a season. So it was like one of them things in football. Like, it's almost written these moments where you just think it's bound to happen. Something's going to happen where it's going to come back to haunt you, and it does most of the time.
I think the most worrying thing for Liverpool really is the fact that you're now relying on Gomez and Matip, who actually aren't very consistent at keeping themselves fit. They're always one or the other is injured. You know, the reason why Van Dijk has played every game is because
for Gomez, I don't think it's a matter of keeping himself fit. I don't think Gomez's injuries that he's had have been. They're not little niggles here and there that he gets every now and again. Like, he's had some big injuries. Like, he's broken his leg. He's been out for periods of time for serious things. I don't think he's injury prone. He's just been very unlucky. Whereas Joel Matip, apparently he went to the hospital after the Everton game and had to get a scan because he'd come off saying that he felt like he was injured. So if we've got that to rely on all season, I'm pretty sure that Fabinho is going to play a lot of games at centre-half, and he may have looked very good against Chelsea earlier in the season, but he's a centre defensive midfielder. That's his position. That's where he's most effective for us. So you take him out and you lose something from that midfield. I thought our midfield on Saturday of Thiago, Henderson and Fabinho was class all round, all game. I thought they were class, the three of them. And you take him out of there, you're then asking a Thiago or a Henderson or a Wijnaldum to then drop in and play that six for the majority of the season. We know they can all do it, but they're not going to give us the same as what Fabinho does.
No, that's exactly what I said to somebody earlier. Just because of the fitness issues, I think Fabinho will drop in. But as you said, what you lose is a team like Liverpool who's going to dominate the ball most games. He's the one that reads the counter, and that's what you're going to be missing. So it's up to those midfield boys, if he does drop in. I don't want to say I worry for Liverpool, but Alisson.
I think Alisson is due back. From what I've been reading and looking at today, he's due back in a couple of weeks. By the end of October, they reckon he'll be back. Huh?
Could Trent push him into midfield finally?
No, Klopp, he could. Klopp would never do it.
It's just a system, though, isn't it? It's just a system at the minute. You know, its creativity comes from the fullbacks. You're not going to take that away.
With Van Dijk being out, I think the best thing going forward for us would be to look at the 4-2-3-1. I personally think having two midfielders in that sort of not centre defensive midfielder, obviously one can go and they can rotate, but having the two sitting there in the middle and then allowing the creativity to come from in front of them would give some extra cover to the two centre backs, just for a little bit of a bedding in period because we don't know football in the Premier League without Van Dijk. He's played every minute under Klopp.
About a 5-3-2. Salah and Mane up front, because Firmino don't do a lot, really.
We haven't got enough centre backs to play 5-3-2.
Controversial.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah,
we ain't got enough centre backs. If we did, I wouldn't mind that because Salah and Mane could still play the same positions they do now, which is basically an inside forward anyway. They both end up coming inside, so they'd cover those two positions. That could work, but yeah, we don't have enough defenders to play that unless we're going to bring in a couple of the kids, which might happen.
Firmino's so good at defensive transitions. Why don't you stick him at the back?
He's cleared a few headers, to be fair to him, and his teeth might put a few people off.
Oh, turkey teeth.
In all seriousness, part of going to 4-2-3-1 for me is to get the best out of Firmino. I think at the minute, where he's not scoring goals and he's not looks like scoring goals, he's very much at the forefront of a lot of Liverpool fans' minds and other teams as well, looking at it, thinking, is he really a good enough centre forward for us? I think dropping back into a deeper position where you don't have to rely on him and think about him scoring goals and just let him have some time trying to get his natural game back. Because to me, it seems he's lost the things that made him such a great player. Like the high press, he'll always have that. You're never going to not have that energy to do it. But his first touch has always been world-class and exemplary. And I feel like in the last couple of games, even that's not been right for him. And it just seems like something's a little bit off with Bobby at the minute, which is why I think we've got Jota in there. I think Jota's a very good player. He's still young. I reckon chuck him in and let him, Mane and Salah rotate who plays the 9 and who plays the wide positions, and just let Firmino hang around in that number 10 position with Thiago and Henderson behind him and see if we can get. We got some games coming up where we should be getting results. We got Sheffield United at home, West Ham at home. Regardless of what West Ham did to Spurs, we should be beating them two teams.
I'll tell you what,
I think
West Ham haven't been that bad this season. West Ham have played really well. They lost to Arsenal, played really well.
I don't care.
Last couple of weeks, mate, the result against Leicester, I don't think anything's a given now without the fans being there.
We should still be beating teams like that, regardless of how crazy the league is. At Anfield, Sheffield United and West Ham should be put away.
Sheffield United, they are abysmal this season compared to what they were last year.
Well, after what I said about Brewster last week, I'm almost sure he's going to turn up at Anfield and bag within the first 5 minutes.
Well, he started on the bench last week for Sheffield, so hopefully he's on the bench again.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, stop talking about fucking what happened at the weekend, because that game's still annoying me.
What about the game before that? We'll talk about that.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
what you're talking about.
Villa.
Villa
No, they played after us.
And you can listen to that chat after the break. No, we're not talking about that horrendous show. We're keeping it last week.
Before we move on, I know we've spoken about Van Dijk missing, but I need to make the point, because I feel like we've spoken about it a lot on previous podcasts and whatnot, and we've probably talked it to death with VAR. In this instance, I'm not blaming VAR for what's happened. I'm blaming, is it David Coote? Is that his name?
Yes. Have you signed that petition?
I
the petition.
haven't yet, but I shall be. I'm blaming him because now it's finally come to light that he actually did see the incident, and apparently he didn't deem it a red card offence. What man could sit there and watch that and say, "Oh no, that's not a red card offence"? This ain't Sunday League, pal.
It's nice to see karma come back round again.
About karma, you go on like Liverpool have always had these results and referees go in their favour. I watched a video earlier of the assistant referee and the referee at Liverpool Spurs at Anfield talking about a last-minute penalty. Both of them said, I've got no idea what went on. I don't know what to do. And the ref just went, fuck it, I'm going to give a penalty. It's literally there. You can hear it all.
To get Kane his 100th
People
goal
need to get this out of their head that these
Kane is a
refs and
protected
VAR are
striker.
all for Liverpool, mate.
Okay.
Told you, I'm livid.
Yeah, but
If we're going to go down that route, let's talk about Drogba. Let's talk about Drogba diving. Moving on to the rest of the weekend results, we saw a couple of surprising ones. I think we have to talk about the West Ham Spurs game. Spurs looked incredible in the first 15 minutes, 3 goals in. They bring on Bale, you're thinking 4, 5, what else? He probably should have scored as well. And then out of a nothing free kick, they concede. And then just from there, Spurs just turned into the old Spurs that we used to know. First half, me and Dan were talking. We said, actually, you know what? This Premier League is so crazy, it could just be made for Mourinho. He has the ingredients there to really turn chicken shit into chicken salad. And in the last 8 minutes, you really saw the old Spurs and why they just can't kick that habit of not being bottle jobs.
It's not the old Spurs. Don't start putting that out there like it's the old Spurs, like they've been great for a while now and they've gone back to their old roots. They have consistently been shit.
I saw a video.
They have always been bottle jobs.
I saw a video of one of their fans saying that they're back at half time, but it was a bit too early because they were back at the end of the game. Because that is Spurs.
I've had 2 texts this week from Tottenham fans. One of them texted me saying, it's our year. Everyone's getting injuries. Goals are flying in. Spurs are going to win it. The other one's telling me that Spurs are a great side. Do you know how much pleasure I had at the end of that game? And just forwarding those messages back to those fucking yiddos, just so they can step back down again and remember where they belong.
Name and shame. They deserve it.
Billy Larter and Jack Clayton.
A free T-shirt coming your way.
You're on YouTube now, boys.
But,
the world's going to know.
Talking of Spurs, I think it's pretty much like everyone at the minute. Defence-wise, no one's doing anything. Attack-wise, for me, Harry Kane and Son have been arguably the best 2 players in the league. What really do Spurs need, which, if anything, Mourinho, it's his bread and butter, is defending, being a bit of a pragmatist. Why isn't he allowing, or why can't he get the best out of Spurs in that sense? But yet he can get Son and Kane absolutely flying. It's almost like roles reversed for Mourinho. Normally it's the other way around.
I don't know whether it's a rotation policy at the minute. One thing I don't get is why they've spent money to bring in Matt Doherty, who's a specialist within that system that they've started to play, where they've got the two sitting in midfield and they're playing the wing backs. And he's persisting with Serge Aurier, who has, ever since he joined, been a horrific defender, rash, positional sense is well off. He's good going forward, don't get me wrong, but he's just not a defender. And that's where the goals came from, wasn't it? It all kind of came down his side. And they've got a ready-made specialist wing-back sat on the bench that they've spent money on it. And they were willing to let Aurier leave as well. That's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
I don't think Davison Sanchez is good enough at centre-back either.
Yeah, he's rash. I don't know, it's strange. Toby Alderweireld has been one of the best defenders in the league. But I don't know. I don't know if he's lost a yard of pace. I don't know if he's missing Jan Vertonghen. He just doesn't seem quite the same. Eric Dyer's transitioning back to being a centre-back after obviously spending years in midfield.
He hasn't done too badly there either, Dyer. When he's played, he's looked all right. Still don't think he's a top quality centre half, but he's done a very good job for him. But I still think they need to go out and sign a very, very good centre half to play with Toby Alderweireld. I don't understand why they let Vertonghen go, personally. Don't care how old he is. I still think he's good enough to do a job for a very, very good side in the Prem.
Who is top quality at the moment, though, defensively? Like, the whole league at the moment seems to be in disarray at the back. Like,
We've gone to shit.
There's not been, I think today was the first 0-0 we've seen. But, I mean, I can't really count the amount of clean sheets there's been. It's just been goals galore. So, I mean, really, defensively, yeah, they're not that great, but it's not unusual. I don't think sort of what Mourinho's doing there is sort of any different to anyone else.
I think their problem is that they've been bad defensively for a while. It's not like this year you've come into it and you've got teams that have just capitulated, but you know they've got defenders where they can have good games. Whereas Tottenham have consistently had a poor defensive record, which has cost them numerous times in finishing in that top four, which is what realistically they should be aiming for every year at the minute.
Yeah, maybe the keeper. Terrace has mistakes in him, like as much as anyone talks about Terrace, let's be honest. Yeah. He had a lot of mistakes in him and cost them probably a lot of goals. Yeah. So maybe he's an issue. I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm sure Mourinho will get it right. But yeah, doesn't look great.
One thing I will say is Jose Mourinho looks a lot more relaxed at Spurs.
But he knows
even though things aren't going their way,
he's not under pressure to win anything.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is the most relaxed I've seen him in a long time.
To win things, though. He'll have himself pressure to win things, and I think he will want to be the first Spurs manager since 2008 to win anything. But actually, maybe to be the first manager in 20, 30 years to win an FA Cup, and actually maybe do a bit more. Well, yeah. Apologies to the Spurs fans. The Audi Cup, of course, and if Audi are looking to sponsor anyone,
oh god, the old famed Audi Cup.
But from one Mourinho team to an old one. Oh, which one is it, Jay or Dan? It's going to move on to Chelsea. At home, you're 2-0 up against Southampton, and at the end of the game, you're finishing 3-3, sorry. Reflecting back on that match, Dan, I think that we spoke about it last week, but the new boys, it's going to be hard for them to fit in and straight away, be at their best. But what are you seeing, or what are you not seeing, really, that is making Chelsea so a bit, spineless? The fact that they are giving up these cheap leads. And that's not a dig, by the way.
No, I know it's not a dig. I mean, unless you're blind, I don't know if it's cross your attention, but we've got a keeper who can't save shots. And who can't... and who can't
worst save percentage in the top 5 English leagues.
He can't clear balls. He can't come for crosses. He can't save shots. He can't command a back line. I don't know if he's got thumbs. I'm not too sure if he's got thumbs or if the gloves are just full of paper or whatever it is. But the guy is a maniac. He's a maniac, and he somehow got a move to Chelsea, a £70 million move, and he's the biggest fraud since Mutu, and that guy is a thief. We won't go into that.
Some context
to the listeners that don't know Dan. To the listener that don't know Dan.
We'll do a
little segment on him at Christmas about Mutu and Dan. We will have a face-to-face sit-down special.
We're going to try and get him on for an interview.
I won't call him by his proper name. I'll call him what FIFA called him, Mergu.
He moved you off, didn't he?
That's not very nice, but yeah, he owes us a lot of money. But yeah, Kepa is a massive issue. I mean, Zuma doesn't help, but we didn't really address. I mean, everyone said we went out. I mean, I guess we have. I don't know where I'm going with this. Really, I'm just at a loss of words. We're just not good enough defensively, and we're not going to be good enough until we get a centre back in that's. Silva's nice and he's a nice little stopgap, but we need someone in that's going to really take command.
Do you think it's just players though, Dan, or do you think that maybe Chelsea in-house need to have a look at it and think that we need to work harder at our defensive skills on the training pitch, because it was last season, and I don't think it's just going to be personnel that's going to change it and benefit from it. Of course, the better defenders are going to make less individual errors in the game, but corner-wise or some of the goals you concede, it seems more that it's more of something that needs to be worked on the training pitch rather than just for new players.
Yeah, Lampard's pretty new to coaching, and I think he's still you can see that he's still learning, because there's in-game management that I think you get with other managers where they could probably close out a game, they could probably see it out, they could bring someone or make a tactical shift. Well, I don't think he quite has that at the moment. I think it's kind of like, okay, we'll do this, and then there's this. I mean, I might be wrong. The geezer's obviously done his coaching badges, and probably, if you ever watch Lamps, I love you, but it doesn't seem like, I think you haven't got this sort of Carlo Ancelotti or the Nuno, the manager at Wolves, Nuno, or a Klopp, something like that, or a Mourinho that's been around the block a few times. He's still learning on the job, and you can kind of see that in games, I think. And it's not a dig. I think it's just something. It's a work in progress, Chelsea, and I think it's going to continue to be. As I said last week, for the next year or two, it's still.
I said this when you brought him in. I said I really hope that for him to be successful, he's given time, and it's not just give him a year as a free hit and then let him have one transfer window. He needs a good 2 or 3 transfer windows to bring in multiple players that are his players. And he started that now with the players he's brought in attacking wise, and he must know, and Jody Morris is experienced enough as his assistant to know what they need to address. So give him a transfer window, give him January, give him next summer, and then start looking at how the team's performing and the dynamics of the overall squad. You can't ask Lampard to go in there now and start coaching Zuma and Christensen a different way to make them better defenders. They're clearly just not good enough for Chelsea. There's no amount of coaching that you can make them a great unit and make them work together as a unit. You're still going to concede goals.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're absolutely right. You can't coach them now. I think they've got into they are what they are now. I think I said to you last year about Zuma, you saying, he's got potential. But I said at the end of the day, I don't think it's ever going to be realised, because the guy can't read a game. He can't read a game of football. He hasn't got awareness. He hasn't got what you need to be a top quality centre back. He might look good alongside someone sort of ushering him through a game. But when it comes down to sort of him and Christensen, they both look clueless. They both don't really know what's going on. And that probably comes from the keeper as well and other things. But, you can't put all the blame on Kepa. You've got to look at the other side of things and say that we don't defend well enough as a team collectively. And that goes for the whole team. There's not enough protection from at times. And I think no one really seems to understand what their role is at the time in defensive situations. Corners, counter-attacks, everyone seems in just disarray. And until you sort that out, you're going to keep shipping goals over and over and over again, So, look, we'll give that back line, hopefully if Mendy can come back fit, Silva gets a good run in the team, and Chilwell, give that team a little bit of a run and see what happens. But I think it's going to be another issue this season, and that's the way it is.
Well, the last game on Saturday was Arsenal versus Man City, and really surprised me that Man City have kind of not gone under the radar this so far this year, but they're not really spoken about. They were, very, very weak, we should say, against Arsenal. They're still able to get the job done against Arsenal, who are meant to be these high flyers under, the all-saving grace as Mikel Arteta, who's doing a good job there. But for Pep to just have a little 1-0 win there, it was a tidy game. They didn't really look in danger. For a team that was really meant to be damaged, and for, Arsenal to be these poachers onto these weak lines, is it credit to Pep, or are we overrating Arteta?
Overrating Arteta.
He's got so much potential to be a good manager, but he's been a manager for 5 minutes.
He's doing a good job with what he's got, but Arsenal squad just isn't good enough. At the end of the day, he's completely changed like what we associate the Arsenal way, or like we think back to obviously Wenger's team and the football that they played, the players that they had. They just don't have that anymore. So he's playing a completely different style, and he's doing what he needs to get results, which is credit to him. But then when they come up against the City, it was 1-0, yeah. But I watching the game, I never thought City were in trouble. It was very and they were missing their best player. Well, probably they had Aguero just coming in, who's their talisman. He's a guy that gets all their goals. He was coming back off of an injury, so he wasn't up to speed. You had obviously De Bruyne completely missing. Laporte wasn't playing, who's their best defender, and knits that unit together at the back. Fernandinho wasn't playing in midfield, and he's a leader on the pitch as well. So, I mean, obviously we talked about Van Dijk earlier. I still, especially now, I still think City are going to win the league this year.
What did you make of Pep's comments towards Aguero's contract? Do you think that's when he said he has to deserve a contract if he wants to stay here? Do you think that's because he's now in his 30s, can pick up some niggles, and he's saying, look, if you can keep yourself fit, we'll give you a rolling contract? Or do you think it's actually quite disrespectful for someone who's done so much for not only Pep at Man City, but for City in general?
I think it's a way of keeping someone hungry. I mean, I don't know if he needs to be kept hungry, but I feel like managers do that sometimes just to keep the competition ticking over. And say, look, you've still got a point to prove, which he has no point to prove. He's an absolute legend, and he should be getting contracts, tomorrow. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just need that in your ear just to keep you on your toes, I guess.
It all comes down to what Aguero wants, really. Like, he's been at the club far longer than Guardiola. I'm pretty sure if Aguero wants another year's contract, the club will find a way to give him another year. But if Aguero decides that it's time to call it a day on the Premier League and he wants to go back to Atletico Madrid, or he wants to go and play in Argentina to end his career, or the MLS, he'll do that as well. I think it's more in Aguero's court than it is in anyone else's, what happens next with his contract.
I think that's why he said it, because Aguero said this contract and the contract before, although he obviously then signed this one, Aguero said that at the end of this contract, I'm going to go back to Argentina. So I think it's pretty much a bit of a hands-off comment from Pep, a bit of he's a member of the squad, and like any member of the squad, he's got to earn his place in the team, he's got to earn his contract. I think it's a bit of a handoff, to be honest. Don't read too much into it.
Interesting. And then what we were going to go into and speak about, which we have kind of touched on, there's no real defending going on at the minute. It's all attack. It's kind of like, it's a free for all. It's two heavyweight boxers every game. Who's got the hardest punch? Who's going to get the punch, the last one in? How much is that down to modern day football? Or does it go hand in hand with this next point that there's no fans in there to really put pressure or to add any tense? People feel a bit more relaxed in there. Is modern day football now the fact that it's a bit more relaxed, or is the fans just not being there? Is that the main contributor to all these goals?
It's a bit of both. I think we touched on it last week when we spoke as well. Modern day defenders are asked to do a lot different nowadays, and that's going to take away some of the art of defending. The art of defending has always been your job first and foremost is to stop the other team from scoring. Whereas nowadays it's almost like half of your job is to do that, but the other half is also to start attacks from where you are. We want to play football from the goalkeeper right the way through. Whereas before, you'd never have a goalkeeper playing it out to his right or left back. It would literally be a goal kick, the whole team squeeze up the pitch, knock it long, let's win the second balls. But fans not being there as well is also obviously going to play a part, I think. And it's showing now. I mean, there's no way that all these teams have just forgotten how to defend. There's no way.
Too much being asked of players these days, the roles they have to play, or is that just saying it comes with modern football and they need to adapt? Like, it's too much being asked.
I think being a centre-back's much harder. Like, just like we talk about all the time, just the way tactics have moved on. There's so much emphasis on the fullbacks that it's so, like, how can you work as a defensive four or a defensive unit when the two on the outside are the focal points of the attack, really? So when those attacks inevitably break down sometimes, it's left on two centre-backs plus maybe one midfielder to combat an onslaught of attackers coming from the other side. So I think, yeah, like obviously all the points you said as well with the fans and everything. It's just a massive culmination of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got to sit back and enjoy the season, haven't we?
Yeah,
just take it as it is. Because,
well, I'll take it for free. I will not be paying
really.
£14 to be enjoying this season. Thank you very much.
No one should.
No, we will not.
There's actually been a lot of good work done by a lot of clubs in boycotting that and instead raising money for food banks, etc. Like Newcastle raised over 16 grand.
Leicester,
that deserves a lot of respect.
I think Leicester gave to charity.
Well, what do you make of Leicester being the only Premier League team to actually reject that motion, and the other 19 all in favour of it? Does it just show how far off these boardmen, these CEOs, the multi-million billionaires are just away from the average fan?
Every club will sit there and say they like their owner when their owners get things right and the club are successful. But that doesn't mean that their owners are ever going to be football men. They may say they care about the fans, but literally 90% of the owners you've got in the league now care about one thing and one thing only, and that's how to make the club as marketable as possible to earn as much money off them as possible. It's the same. Every team's the same.
They know people will pay it, though, because people aren't going to the pubs as much now because of the COVID situation. They're not having sort of friends around and that. So what are you really going to be spending your money on? So they probably think, you know what, people will pay it. As much as people want, like, as much as there'll be a group of people that won't pay it, doesn't matter because the games won't be on TV anyway. So you either pay for it or you don't. And I think it's just like a little slap in the face, really, for fans who really at this time, football's one of the only things they've got going for them, like sort of entertainment and something good going on. And they turn around and say, by the way, you've got to pay 15 quid to watch your team now, which I think is an absolute disgrace.
Well, I think the first week or the first couple of weeks, people won't do it. And I think once it dies down and people are a bit bored on a Sunday or people are a bit bored, they've got nothing to do, they want to watch their team, then I think the viewership is actually going to slowly rise of the £14, how much it is. Sky actually came out today when they were questioned on it and said, we're not going to tell you how many viewers we had because that's our information to look at, which probably shows that probably not many people did buy into it this weekend. But I think 2-3 weeks' time, as this is still going on, if they haven't done the right thing and make a U-turn on it, then I think slowly people will start to do it for those exact reasons. They're not spending their money down at the pub. They're not spending it on a match day ticket or a pie or a beer at half-time. They're probably going to think, you know what, I probably do have £50.
We say that. It's not every area that's not allowed to go to the pub.
Yeah. No, but I think a lot of people
numerous places around the UK where you can still go to the pub to watch it. Like where I live now, we're not in the tier 2, so I can still go to the pub here and watch the game if I want. And I'd much rather, even if it's by myself, I'd much rather walk around there than pay 15 quid to watch a game of football.
Why not $7.50? Like, you're still earning the.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, where did that figure come from? Who sat down
Make it
and thought, what's a fair figure?
In a time where people are losing jobs and being made redundant and fucking businesses have gone out of business and people have lost a shitload of money, people's health is the main priority, but people's mental state is just as important. And as we all know, being mad football fans doing this podcast, football's huge for us. It's huge. Yeah. Sometimes it's too big for us and we take it far too seriously, but that's all part of what we enjoy. But what they're doing now is taking some of that enjoyment out of it. Like when all the games were free, it probably hit them hard in the pocket. But imagine all those people who are tuning into those games who are still getting their fix of football, who have also gone through hard shit and had to lose shitloads of money. Like, you got to think of the normal man.
I said last year about the ticket prices for games and stuff, and now they just keep constantly rising and that. It's like fans can't catch a break with football, really.
Yeah.
I know it's one of the most profitable businesses in the world, but it's like, how much money do you want? Because at the end of the day, your core value is the fans, is the people that keep it ticking over.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not like fans stop coming, football loses its appeal.
Yeah. It's not like the games that are being put onto it's not like the games on box office now are attractive.
Yeah.
Like it's the TV games are TV games for a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Sky or BT or whoever pay to have those games on their channels. So then, as you say, these fans that have potentially gone through hardships because of COVID with their jobs or their families or whatever it may be, to ask them, if this goes on for the season, for the likes of, I don't know, just to pull an example out, Burnley, who aren't the most attractive team and aren't on the TV every week or every other week, unless they're playing against one of the top sides. For those fans to then pay £15 every single week to have to watch their team on the telly. It just smacks of greed, and it doesn't.
Majority of these people are already paying extortionate fees for having Sky and BT Sport at home anyway.
Yeah, it's not like a big box office boxing. So like Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury are going to fight 2, maximum 3 times a year. So on that, because you don't get to see them that much, yeah, all right, I'll swing 20 quid at that. But
the only thing I would say is if the money was going to like the clubs, or if it was like they were filtering that money down to the EFL potentially and helping out clubs that can't have fans at all at the moment and having a nightmare down there at the bottom, if that, I suppose you can't really ask people to pay for other people's clubs, but if there was a way that the money was going to something good, but I mean, where's the money going? Is it going to the Premier League?
Well, that's the thing. Steve Parrish said that same thing as you, Dan. He said you don't have Costa looking after your local shop down the road. Sean Dyche came out and said something similar as well. A lot of Premier League clubs probably don't care about your Boltons. They probably don't care about your Wycombe Wanderers. They care about keeping themselves afloat. And for as much money there is in football, there probably isn't as much as everyone thought there was, because everyone's going crazy at the fact that they're missing out. Liverpool are missing out on hundreds of millions by not having fans in. I'm sure Palace have an amount that's hitting them hard in the pockets. So it's hard for just the Premier League to sit down and say, let's filter some money up. But it's a game problem where the FA, the Premier League, everyone needs to sit down together and come up with a reasonable excuse as to why you're overcharging all of us 15 quid if you want to charge it. But also, how are we going to help out those League 2 teams, those League 1 teams, who are probably sacking the tea lady right now because they're just saving pennies?
Yeah. Poor Arsenal. Poor old Arsenal.
Yeah, poor old Gunnosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the money's meant to go to the clubs. These pay-per-view games are meant to make up some of the losses that they are getting on match days. But I completely agree with
the point. Is that for the clubs that are actually being shown?
I believe so, yeah.
So like the game earlier, what was it? West Brom, Burnley. So those clubs are taking a share of what's earned from the box office.
I believe so. It's not fair. It would be completely unfair to filter it through the rest of the teams, because then you've got the likes of Liverpool, City, United, Chelsea, who are going to be on the big Saturday night or lunchtime Super Sunday games, and they're getting the money out of the Sky contract that's always going to be there regardless of what the situation is with COVID. But I think the point Dan made is really good about filtering this down. And it's all well and good saying, all right, you don't get Tesco's looking after cost cutters or whatever it may be. Your local shop. But
the supermarkets are available.
But there is a knock-on effect. At the end of the day, we've gone through the initial part with COVID, and we thought there was a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and now it seems like it's all being reeled back in because we're going into further restrictions, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel. We have no idea what's going to happen here. We have no idea how long this is going to go on now. And for football, we obviously have learned that the lower clubs are struggling and that they're not as I can't think of the word. They're not untouchable, and these clubs could die. They could go under because of this. And that will have a massive knock-on effect. All these kids are thinking, I want to be a footballer when I grow up. There's going to be a lot less opportunity for them to become a footballer because there's going to be less clubs where they can go and actually play. It's not going to be Premier League teams extending their academies by 3 times so that they've got a pick of all these players. Like, they will have a pick of them, but there's going to be a lot more that miss out and don't get to live out their dream of being a footballer because there's just not going to be the facilities to do it.
What did you make of midweek? We saw the London Palladium almost sold out with a night in with Arsene Wenger. So hundreds of people can sit in a tiny, small globe of a theatre, but yet a club can't have 500 people spread out. It kind of 600 people spread out, depending on how big it. That's, for me, that's insane. You're out there. It's easier. Yeah, Arsene Wenger, mate.
It's talking about his book, wasn't
it?
Salud. It's brilliant. That is brilliant.
Apparently, it is on the agenda for the government to talk about getting fans back into stadiums, but it's all fucking. It needs to be done, but it's a bit late now. I've been calling for it for weeks. Like, all this other stuff is going on. We work in an office of 200 people, but yeah, you can't have people in an open air stadium like 2 meters apart. It's just mental.
Well, you go on a tube and it's packed. You know,
Yeah.
then I'm sure after London Palladium, the tubes were absolutely chocker afterwards. Yeah, everyone's wearing masks.
Well, look at the 10 p.m. curfew. People were playing cricket in the street in Peckham.
Well, this is one of the big reasons. That is one of the big reasons why they're not allowing fans, because it's like one logistical point we do have to think of, and Dan actually made it there, is the transport to and from games. Whilst we can easily sit here and say, oh, Old Trafford could easily hold 10,000 people at the 76 capacity, all those people are going to be trying to get to that same place at the same time, and that is going to create a crowd. Whilst you can space out in a stadium, it's harder to space out en route to that stadium. So there's a lot of logistical things behind the scenes, but I mean, the whole thing at the Palladium, like the whole fucking thing's a bit stupid. That's probably another chat. It's not even football related, but
yeah.
No, we're coming for you, boys. We're coming for you.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things. Like, you can think of the logistical side of it, but it's like, well, why have you put that rule into place for that, but not for football or vice versa?
Let's do a DX. We always spoke about doing a DX and turning up at Talksport. Let's just turn up at number 10 in the tank with DX tops on.
We might get shot. We might get shot.
All DX are going to phase this whole golden out. It's like leg dropping.
That'd be a funny episode, wouldn't it? There's a reason Connor's square is blacked out today. We tried to storm Downing Street and we've lost a soldier.
Should we not wear masks so that we seem dangerous if we go? Or...
Oh, yeah.
From the Terrace, masks will be available soon.
Oh, yeah. You funding that, yeah?
Makazaka's fucking ain't. Jesus.
No, it is not.
So we won't talk about it.
It's hard, though, isn't it, at the moment?
It's so unpredictable. Every game is unpredictable.
Yeah.
Well, just a quick one. What do you make of Salford City, Gary Neville's team, sacking Gary Alexander, unbeaten in the league, sacked him, brings in Scholesy, his mate, loses his first game of the season?
It is weird. It's a strange one because I
don't know the ins and outs of the departure, but on paper and without context, it does seem a very strange thing to do.
Well, Scholes has come out and said he'll never take the job permanently. He said that himself. He's like, I am literally a stopgap. He's like, Gary and I don't know the other fella's name that runs it with him, but he's like, they asked me to come in as interim, and he's like, that is all it is. He was like, I could be in charge midweek, but they could get another manager.
Yeah, they've done it before. Scholes and Phil Neville were interim bosses a couple of years ago for a few games.
Yeah, I do find it mad though. You sack someone after going unbeaten.
I know, but you don't know what happens behind closed doors, man. Like, you talk about, like, Antonio Conte is a good example. He won things at Chelsea, but all the rumours are he rubs people up the wrong way and then he's out the door. Like, you don't know what happens behind closed doors at the end of the day.
It must be hard to be the manager of Salford City. You're the manager, but you've got like 6 or 7 of the best ex-pros, the most successful British players that have ever existed above you, telling you what they think you should be doing and you need to do. It must be hard to actually get control of that team.
They call them the Class of 92 Mafia, apparently.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Nicky Butt is the muscle.
Imagine Gary Neville sitting there just stroking his cat.
Who, Phil?
Wow.
Everyone shits themselves. It's a Neville run.
Phil's a lioness.
And on to the last section of the podcast, which is now pretty notoriously known throughout the footballing industry. And if you don't know what it is, where have you been? We start one, we bench one, and we get rid of one. And the 3 options there at right back, after we chose Jordan Pickford last week. We've got Serge Aurier. We've got, not for me, Joel Ward. And lastly, Alan Hutton.
Oh, big Huts.
Take your pick. All notoriously known.
Oh, no, man. Surely we've got to go for the Scottish Cafu.
I like Joel Ward.
I like him too, but Connor seems to have a vendetta against him, which Connor will voice now.
I don't think he's very good.
He was superb for me on FIFA 18.
He scored a winner.
Real life, man. Is that a game? No, I don't. He is not. Look, ask Palace fans. Palace fans will tell you even they don't rate Joel Ward.
Palace fan, we'll put a vote out. Palace fans, to all 7 of you that are probably listening, you like Joel Ward? You hate Gunnar Hack? Connor, what's your socials?
I'll tell you my socials. Let's skip.
He says whilst locking his door.
I'd get rid of Sergio little Fagan thing. I don't know what that is. That's got to go, man.
The bum fluff.
I would.
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. I really like Alan Hutton.
You want to start Alan Hutton?
You don't get a nickname of the Scottish Cafu without having a little bit about you.
He did score a great goal for Villa.
Do you know what I mean? He absolutely annihilates people for a living on the football pitch.
I was going to say, in or out of football?
In football. I would start Hutton.
Should you listen, Alan? Big fans, come on the show.
He's not annihilated you, has he, Connor? You have got a thing for him at the moment.
No, he hasn't.
It's bald men, mate. They stick together, don't they?
Because, yeah, we've got an understanding.
What do you mean?
Me, Alan Hutton and Ross Kemp have a weekly Zoom call.
And does Ross Kemp tell you that he could kill Alan Hutton if he ever came at him?
He does. And then Alan Hutton replies and says, I'll annihilate you in a Scottish accent. So I've got a lot of respect for both men. No, I would start Hutton, bench Aurier, and bin Ward off.
Well, we all have to be in total agreement. So that's Connor's proposition.
I have to say, I really don't care for this one. So, yeah, just go with that.
If you don't care, how do you expect the fans to care?
You chose them, mate.
Oh. Right, so...
Right back's not the best position, is it?
It's normally steady anyone.
No one wants to be a Gary Neville.
No.
That's right.
I
don't. Well, I never would.
Except
right,
Phil.
so... we'll be going on to centre-backs next week if that piece can survive.
If you can think of any.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much is that for another week of fantastic podcasting. Still stay tuned because we've got a very exciting podcast coming up, which we're just in the midst of finishing off to put out to your wonderful selves. And as always, thanks for the support of the weekend. First YouTube video went up. This will be the second or third. So keep, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, like, share, subscribe. You can find all our socials in normal place. In fact, we'll probably just roll them up on the screen as we fade out.
Happy days. See you later.
In a bit, guys.